Shadows of promise. The evening light streamed through the windows of Palido's, casting long shadows across the white tablecloth where Olivia Reeves sat across from Jonathan Wells. She watched him gesticulate excitedly about microprocessors and venture capital, his enthusiasm infectious. At 32, Olivia had long ago stopped believing in fairy tales, but something about Jonathan made her wonder if perhaps happy endings weren't entirely fictional. "You're not bored to tears?" Jonathan asked, his hazel eyes crinkling at the corners. "Most people's eyes glaze over when I start talking circuitry." Olivia laughed, tucking a strand of auburn hair behind her ear. "I design buildings for a living. I appreciate anyone passionate about creating something from nothing." Their courtship had been swift but certain. Jonathan, the founder of Nexus Technologies, had hired Olivia's firm to design his company's headquarters. What began as professional admiration quickly blossomed into something deeper. 6 months later, they were inseparable. "The board loved your designs," Jonathan said, reaching across the table to take her hand. "They're calling it visionary, just like you." Olivia smiled, feeling the familiar flutter in her stomach that came with his touch. "Well, your vision made it possible. Nexus is changing how the world thinks about sustainable technology." Waiter arrived with their dessert, a delicate chocolate soufflé they'd share. As they dipped their spoons into the warm center, Jonathan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then back at her, apologetic. "The investors?" she asked. He nodded. "They're eager about the IPO. 6 years of work, and we're finally going public next quarter." "I'm proud of you," she said, meaning it. His drive matched her own, the reason they understood each other so well. Later that night, in the loft they'd begun sharing 3 months prior, Olivia stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Jonathan wrapped his arms around her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. "Move in permanently," he whispered. "This place feels empty without you." She turned in his embrace. "Are you sure? Your life is about to get crazy with the IPO." "All the more reason to have you here. You keep me grounded, Liv." The following weeks were a whirlwind. Olivia moved her things into Jonathan's penthouse, while juggling the final designs for the Nexus headquarters. Their lives intertwined seamlessly, two ambitious professionals who found in each other both passion and understanding. Until the morning, Olivia sat on the edge of the bathtub, staring at the pregnancy test in her hands. "Jonathan," she called out, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. He appeared in the doorway, coffee mug in hand, eyebrows raised in question. "I'm pregnant." The mug slipped from his grasp, shattering on the tile floor. What followed was a week of late-night conversations, of hopes and fears laid bare. Jonathan seemed genuinely excited once the shock wore off, talking about converting the home office into a nursery. Olivia allowed herself to believe in the family they could become. Then came the dinner with the Nexus board members. "Pregnant?" echoed Thomas Blackwood, the lead investor, his tone making the word sound like a disease. "Interesting timing, just before we go public." "Congratulations," added Veronica Sloan, the marketing director, though her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Of course, this will affect our image strategy." Later, in the car ride home, Jonathan was unusually quiet. "They'll come around," Olivia said, squeezing his hand. But something had shifted. In the days that followed, Jonathan grew distant, spending more time at the office. Olivia would wake to find his side of the bed empty, the sheets cold. "It's just the IPO pressure," he told her. "Once we're through this, everything will settle down." Olivia wanted to believe him, but the shadow across his face when he looked at her growing belly told a different story. The man who had once looked at her with such certainty now seemed lost in calculations she couldn't see. Then came the morning. She found him packing a suitcase. "I can't do this," he said, not meeting her eyes. "The company needs my complete focus right now. A baby, a family. It's not what I planned." "Plans change," she whispered, one hand protectively over her stomach. "We can make this work." Jonathan finally looked at her, his expression hardening into something she didn't recognize. "I've made my decision. You can stay here until you find a place. I'll provide financial support, of course." As he walked out the door, Olivia felt the foundations of her world crumble beneath her feet. She had designed enough structures to know when something was collapsing beyond repair. The Gilded Cage. The conference room of Nexus Technologies hummed with anticipation as Jonathan Wells stood before a wall of screens displaying the company's soaring stock prices. 3 months after going public, the tech world hailed Nexus as the darling of Wall Street. At 35, Jonathan had achieved what most only dreamed of, a billion-dollar valuation and his face on the cover of Forbes. "Gentlemen," he addressed, the board, his voice confident, "our sustainable energy storage solutions have exceeded all market projections. The military contract alone will triple our fourth-quarter revenue." Thomas Blackwood nodded approvingly. "A wise decision, focusing on what matters. Distractions can be costly." Jonathan's jaw tightened at the veiled reference to Olivia. The board had made their position clear months ago. A messy personal life would undermine investor confidence. A pregnant girlfriend didn't fit the image of the focused visionary they were selling to the world. Veronica Sloan slid a tablet across the table. "Speaking of image, we've finalized your appearance schedule for the next quarter. The charity gala next month is particularly important. Many potential European investors will attend." On the screen appeared a photograph of Jonathan with Cassandra Winters, a world-renowned model turned environmental activist, their arms linked at a recent tech conference. "Your partnership with Cassandra projects exactly the right message," Veronica continued. "Visionary tech leader and sustainable lifestyle advocate, it's marketing gold." Jonathan stared at the image, feeling a hollow sensation expand in his chest. The partnership with Cassandra was carefully orchestrated by Veronica's PR team, a strategic alliance benefiting both their brands. It wasn't real, none of it was, but the board didn't care as long as stock prices climbed. "Fine," he said, closing the tablet. "Is that all?" Thomas cleared his throat. "There's the matter of Ms. Reeves's continued settlement. Our legal team suggests a formal agreement." Jonathan felt a flicker of anger. "I'm handling Olivia personally." "Of course," Thomas conceded, though his tone suggested the topic wasn't closed. Later that evening, in his new penthouse, larger, more ostentatious than the one he'd shared with Olivia, Jonathan poured himself a whiskey and stared out at the city lights. His phone buzzed with a message from Cassandra about their upcoming photo shoot for Sustainable Tech Monthly. He didn't reply. Instead, he opened his private email account and found himself typing Olivia's address. His fingers hovered over the keys, uncertain what to say. After several minutes, he closed the laptop without sending anything. Across the city, in a modest but sun-filled apartment, Olivia Reeves sat at her drafting table, one hand sketching, building plans while the other rested on her 7 months pregnant belly. The baby kicked, and she smiled despite her exhaustion. After Jonathan's departure, she'd had 2 choices: collapse or rebuild. As an architect, rebuilding was in her blood. She'd found this apartment, negotiated a freelance contract with her former firm, and begun planning for a life very different from the one she'd imagined. The buzzer rang, and Olivia answered to find a courier with another envelope from Jonathan's lawyers. Inside was a check, substantial as always, and a legal document outlining a formal support arrangement. No personal note, no inquiry about the baby's health. Just money and legal language designed to keep her at a safe distance. Olivia set the envelope aside. The financial support meant security for her child, but she refused to become dependent on it. Each check she received went into a separate account for the baby's future. Her own life, her career, would be rebuilt by her hands alone. Her phone rang, displaying her sister Rebecca's name. "How's my favorite architect and my future niece or nephew?" Rebecca's warm voice filled the line. "We're surviving," Olivia replied, her hand tracing circles on her stomach. "The Murray project accepted my design modifications. If I can secure 2 more clients this month, I'll have enough work to launch my own firm after the baby comes." "That's my sister," Rebecca said proudly. "Have you heard from him?" Olivia glanced at the envelope. "Only through lawyers." "His loss," Rebecca said firmly, "though I still wish I could key his overpriced car." Olivia laughed, then winced as a sharp pain shot through her back. "I should rest. The doctor said I'm pushing myself too hard." After hanging up, Olivia made her way to the nursery she'd designed. Unlike the chrome and glass aesthetic of Jonathan's world, she'd created a room filled with warm colors and natural materials. A mobile of architectural landmarks hung above the crib: the Eiffel Tower, the Guggenheim, the Sydney Opera House. Her child would grow up understanding that beautiful things could be built from nothing but imagination and perseverance. A week later, Olivia went into labor 2 weeks early. Through 18 hours of pain and uncertainty, Rebecca remained by her side while nurses and doctors came and went. There was no call to Jonathan, no message sent to inform him. When Nicholas James Reeves finally arrived in the world, red-faced and screaming with healthy lungs, Olivia held him against her chest and made a silent promise. This child would never question his worth. He would never feel like an inconvenience or an obstacle to someone's ambition. 3 days later, as Olivia was preparing to take Nicholas home, a massive arrangement of flowers arrived at the hospital. The card bore only 2 words in familiar handwriting: "I'm sorry." Rebecca intercepted the arrangement before Olivia could see it. "Trash these," she instructed a nurse. "My sister and nephew need nothing from him." That same evening, Jonathan stood on a stage accepting a Visionary of the Year award, Cassandra radiant beside him in a sustainable silk gown. Flashbulbs popped, applause thundered, and stock prices ticked upward on trading screens worldwide. In his acceptance speech, Jonathan spoke of building a better future, of legacy and responsibility to coming generations. The words tasted like ash in his mouth as he thought of the son whose birth announcement had been delivered to his office that morning, the son whose life he had already chosen not to be part of. Foundations. Built in silence. 7 years passed, like the turning pages of a blueprint, methodical, purposeful, each one building upon the last. Olivia Reeves stood in the center of her firm's new office space, watching as her team of 15 architects and designers settled into their workstations. Reeves' sustainable architecture had grown from a one-woman operation at her kitchen table to one of the most sought-after boutique firms in the city, specializing in environmentally progressive designs that balanced beauty with functionality. "The Berkeley project renderings are ready for your final approval," said Damon, her lead project manager, tablet in hand. "The clients are thrilled with the living wall integration." Olivia nodded, scanning the 3D model with a practiced eye. "Increase the southern exposure by 3%. We can capture more natural light without compromising the thermal envelope." As her team dispersed to their tasks, Olivia checked her watch. 3:30. Time to leave for Nicholas's school. Despite her firm's success, she maintained an unbreakable rule: be present for her son at the beginning and end of each day. "Tell the Berkeley clients I'll call them tomorrow," she told her assistant, gathering her portfolio. "And remind everyone about Friday's team dinner. Nicholas is excited to help me cook for everyone." The drive to Westridge Elementary took her past a massive construction site where Nexus Technologies' new headquarters rose from the earth, a gleaming testament to Jonathan Wells's expanding empire. The building was a marvel of modern architecture, though not her design. She'd watched its progress with professional interest, but personal detachment, much like how she now viewed its owner. Nicholas was waiting at the pickup area, his backpack nearly as big as he was, dark hair falling across his forehead in a way that sometimes made her heart catch. At 7, he was a miniature Renaissance man, equally passionate about building elaborate Lego structures and performing science experiments in their kitchen. "Mom!" he called, running to the car. "We learned about sustainable energy today. I told everyone my mom designs buildings that use the sun instead of coal." Olivia smiled, helping him buckle his seatbelt. "That's right. And what else can buildings use besides solar power? Wind, geothermal, and hydro something," he answered, scrunching his nose in concentration. "Hydroelectric," she supplied. "Very good. Ice cream stop before home?" While Nicholas devoured a chocolate cone, Olivia checked her emails. Among them was a notification about the International Green Architecture Symposium in London next month. Her firm's Harmony Gardens project had been nominated for the Sustainability Innovation Award. It would be her first international recognition, a validation of everything she'd built. "Can I come to London too?" Nicholas asked, somehow reading her expression. "Of course," she said, wiping ice cream from his chin. "You're my good luck charm." That evening, after Nicholas was asleep, Olivia sat on their apartment balcony with a glass of wine and her laptop, finalizing her presentation for the symposium. Her phone buzzed with a text from Rebecca. "Have you seen this?" her sister wrote, attaching a link to a business article. The headline read, "Nexus CEO Jonathan Wells launches $50 million Foundation for Climate Innovation." Below was a photograph of Jonathan at a press conference, looking older than she remembered, lines of fatigue etched around his eyes despite his practiced smile. Beside him stood not Cassandra Winters. That relationship had apparently ended years ago, but a rotating cast of executives and scientists. Olivia closed the article without reading further. Jonathan's life had continued on its trajectory just as hers had. Their paths had diverged so completely that he felt like a character from a book she'd once read, familiar but not quite real. Yet sometimes, when Nicholas asked thoughtful questions about how things worked or showed flashes of mathematical brilliance beyond his years, she saw echoes of the man she'd once loved. Nicholas had Jonathan's analytical mind, his curiosity about the world's mechanics, but tempered with an emotional intelligence that was entirely his own. Jonathan had never seen his son, never requested to. The generous monthly deposits continued to appear in Nicholas's trust fund, but there had been no birthday cards, no Christmas gifts, no attempts at contact. It was as if he'd paid for the right to forget. Reflections in a broken mirror. London greeted Olivia and Nicholas with unseasonable sunshine, a welcome respite from the autumn chill they'd left behind. Their hotel suite overlooked Hyde Park, where golden leaves drifted onto winding paths. Nicholas pressed his nose against the window, wide-eyed at the double-decker buses and the distant figure of Big Ben. "Can we see the dinosaurs at the museum tomorrow?" he asked, bouncing on his heels with excitement. "After my morning meeting," Olivia promised, unpacking their suitcases. "The symposium doesn't officially start until the evening reception." Her phone buzzed with a message from her colleague, Harriet, who was already at the venue. "You won't believe who's on the attendee list. Call me." Olivia frowned, then dialed. "What's up?" "Jonathan Wells," Harriet said without preamble. "He's listed as a special guest speaker for the Technology Integration Panel. Did you know?" Olivia sat down slowly on the edge of the bed. "No, I had no idea." "Will it be a problem?" Harriet's voice was concerned. "I can run interference if needed." "It's been 7 years," Olivia replied, watching Nicholas arrange his collection of mineral specimens on the desk. "We're both professionals. I doubt he'll even approach me." After hanging up, Olivia stood before the bathroom mirror, studying her reflection. At 39, she carried herself with the quiet confidence of someone who had rebuilt her life brick by brick. Her auburn hair was shorter now, styled in an elegant bob that framed her face. Success had afforded her a wardrobe that reflected her architectural sensibilities: clean lines, natural materials, thoughtful details. She wondered what Jonathan would see when he looked at her, if he would look at her at all. The following evening, Olivia left Nicholas with a hotel babysitter and made her way to the Royal Institute's Grand Hall, where the symposium's opening reception sparkled with conversation and champagne. Her emerald dress, selected to match, her eyes, drew appreciative glances as she navigated through clusters of the world's leading architects and designers. Olivia Reeves, a silver-haired woman, greeted her warmly. "Your Harmony Gardens project is revolutionary. The way you integrated water reclamation with aesthetic elements, brilliant." Olivia was mid-reply when she felt it, a prickle of awareness like a change in atmospheric pressure. She turned slightly and saw him across the room. Jonathan stood conversing with a group of men in expensive suits, but his attention had snagged on her. 7 years had etched new lines around his eyes and threads of silver at his temples, but he remained unmistakably himself. Their gazes locked for a breathless moment before Olivia deliberately turned back to her conversation. For the next hour, she circulated carefully, maintaining maximum distance from Jonathan while engaging wholeheartedly with colleagues. If he was approaching her, she found another conversation to join. If he entered a room, she discovered a reason to step onto the terrace. It was childish, perhaps, but necessary. Tomorrow she would present her work before the judges. Tonight was not the time for emotional complications. Her strategy failed when she entered the symposium's exhibition hall to preview the displays. The vast room was nearly empty at this late hour, most attendees having moved to the dinner portion of the evening. Olivia walked slowly past models and renderings of remarkable structures, appreciating the craftsmanship of her peers. "Your Harmony Gardens deserves the award," came his voice from behind her. Olivia turned, her composure intact despite the sudden drumming of her heart. "Thank you. I didn't expect to see you here." Jonathan stood a respectful distance away, hands in the pockets of his tailored suit. "I serve on the symposium's Technology Advisory Board, though I would have come anyway had I known you were nominated." "Would you?" she asked, her tone neutral. He had the grace to look uncomfortable. "I've followed your work, Olivia. You've created something remarkable." "My firm, you mean?" She met his gaze steadily. "Yes, I have." "Not just the firm." His voice lowered. "How is he?" The question caught her off guard. In 7 years, Jonathan had never once inquired about Nicholas. The monthly deposits arrived like clockwork, but without a single word about the child they supported. "Nicholas is thriving," she said finally. "He's brilliant, curious, kind, everything a mother could hope for." "Nicholas," Jonathan repeated as if tasting the name for the first time. "You brought him to London?" "He's at the hotel with a sitter. We're going to the Natural History Museum tomorrow. He's fascinated by paleontology at the moment." Jonathan nodded, a complex emotion crossing his features. "He sounds remarkable." "He is." Olivia glanced at her watch. "I should return to the dinner." "Olivia," he said as she turned to leave. "I'm sorry. For everything." She paused, her back to him. "It's ancient history, Jonathan." "Is it? Because standing here, looking at you, it feels like yesterday." Olivia faced him again, her expression carefully controlled. "We've both built lives in the aftermath. Yours seems quite successful." "On paper," he acknowledged with a hollow smile. "The reality is somewhat less impressive." Before she could respond, her phone chimed with a text. The babysitter, Nicholas, was asking when she would return. "I need to go," she said. showing him the screen without thinking. Jonathan's eyes widened slightly at the message, which included a photo of Nicholas holding up a drawing he'd made of London's skyline. The resemblance between father and son was unmistakable. The same thoughtful eyes, the same determined set of the jaw. "He looks like you," Olivia said softly, regretting the words immediately. Jonathan stared at the image, something raw and painful crossing his face. Would it be possible to meet him?" The question hung between them, fraught with 7 years of absence. "That's not my decision to make," Olivia replied finally. "It's his." The following morning, Olivia sat at breakfast with Nicholas, watching him meticulously arrange his fruit in a geometric pattern before eating it. "Nicholas," she began carefully, "do you remember when you asked about your father, and I told you he lived far away, working on important things?" Nicholas nodded, suddenly serious. "You said he helps make the world's energy better, but he couldn't be with us." "That's right. Well, he's here in London, at my conference, and he's asked if he could meet you." Nicholas considered this with the same expression he used when solving complex puzzles. "Do you want me to meet him?" Olivia's throat tightened. "This isn't about what I want, sweetheart. It's about what you want." "Will it make you sad if I do?" he asked, his perception cutting straight to the heart of the matter. "No," she answered honestly. "It might be complicated, but I won't be sad." Nicholas nodded decisively. "Then I want to see what he looks like. In real life, not just in my head." That afternoon, while her colleagues attended symposium sessions, Olivia took Nicholas to the museum cafe where Jonathan waited, his usual confidence nowhere in evidence as he stood awkwardly at the sight of them. Nicholas, usually talkative, fell silent as he studied the man before him. Jonathan, for his part, seemed unable to look away from the boy, this small person who carried his features, his DNA, yet was entirely unknown to him. "Hello, Nicholas," Jonathan said finally, his voice uncharacteristically uncertain. "I'm very pleased to meet you." Bridges over troubled waters. The south bank of the Thames shimmered under spring sunshine as Olivia watched Nicholas and Jonathan from a park bench. 6 months had passed since London. 6 months of careful navigation through uncharted emotional territory. Nicholas knelt beside Jonathan, their heads bent together over the model boat they were preparing to launch onto the river. From a distance, the resemblance between father and son was striking. Same determined posture, same methodical attention to detail. Olivia checked her watch. Her meeting with potential clients was in 2 hours. This was the first time she'd left Nicholas alone, with Jonathan, a milestone that felt both monumental and mundane. After the initial museum meeting in London, communication had been tentative. Jonathan had returned to his life, Olivia to hers, but something had irrevocably shifted. 2 weeks later, an email arrived requesting permission to write to Nicholas. Olivia had consulted a family therapist before agreeing. The letters began simply, Jonathan sharing stories about his childhood interest in electronics, asking Nicholas about his favorite subjects in school. Nicholas replied with detailed accounts of his science experiments and Lego creations. The correspondence evolved into video calls, then monthly visits when Jonathan reorganized his schedule to be in the city more frequently. Olivia had established clear boundaries from the beginning. "Nicholas is my priority," she'd told Jonathan firmly. "If this becomes confusing or painful for him, it stops immediately." Jonathan had nodded, a humility in his demeanor she'd never seen during their relationship. "I understand. I've already missed 7 years. I won't risk losing more." Now, watching them together, Olivia felt an unexpected lightness. The bitterness she'd carried had gradually transformed into something more complex. Not forgiveness, exactly, but a recognition that people could change, that mistakes, even devastating ones, need not define the entirety of a life.